The Lives of the Saints by Father Alban Butler. February 27th, Saint Leander, Bishop of Seville, A.D. 596. Saint Leander was of an illustrious family and born at Carthagena in Spain. He had two brothers, Saint Fulgentius, Bishop of Exile and Carthagena, and Saint Isidore, our saint's successor in the See of Seville. He had also one sister, Florentina by name, who had consecrated herself to God in the state of virginity. He set them an example of that piety which they faithfully imitated. He entered into a monastery very young, where he lived many years, and attained to an eminent degree of virtue and sacred learning. These qualities occasioned his being promoted to the See of Seville, but his change of condition made little or no alteration in his method of life, though it brought on him a great increase of care and solicitude for the salvation of those whom God had put under his care, as well as for the necessities of the whole Church, that of Spain in particular. This kingdom was then possessed by the Visigoths, or Western Goths, who, while Theodoric settled the Ostrogoths, or Eastern Goths, in Italy, had passed the Alps and founded their kingdom, first in Languedoc and soon after, about the year 470, in Spain. These Goths, being for the generality all infected with Arianism, established this heresy wherever they came, so that when Saint Leander was made bishop, it had reigned in Spain 100 years. This was his great affliction. However, by his tears and prayers to God, and by his most zealous and unwearied endeavors, both at home and abroad, he became the happy instrument of the conversion of that nation to the Catholic faith. But he suffered much from King Leovigild on this account, and was at length forced into banishment, the saint having converted, among others, Hermenegild, the king's eldest son and heir apparent. This pious prince his unnatural father put to death the year following, for refusing to receive the communion from the hands of an Arian bishop. But, touched with remorse not long after, he recalled our saint, and falling sick, and finding himself past hopes of recovery, he sent for Saint Leander, whom he had so much persecuted, and recommended to him his son Reccared, whom he left his successor, to be instructed in the true faith. Though out of fear of his people, as Saint Gregory laments, he durst not embrace it himself. His son Reccared, by listening to Saint Leander, soon became a Catholic. The king also spoke with so much wisdom on the controverted points to the Arian bishops, that by the force of his reasoning, rather than by his authority, he brought them over to own the truth of the Catholic doctrine, and thus he converted the whole nation of the Visigoths. He was no less successful in the like pious endeavors with respect to the Suevi, a people of Spain, whom his father Leovigild had perverted. It was a subject of great joy to the whole Church to behold the wonderful blessing bestowed by Almighty God on the labors of our saint, but to none more than Saint Gregory the Great, who wrote to Saint Leander to congratulate him on the subject. This holy prelate was no less zealous in the reformation of manners than in restoring the purity of faith, and he planted the seeds of that zeal and fervor which afterwards produced so many martyrs and saints. His zeal in this regard appeared in the good regulations set on foot with this intent in the Council of Seville, which was called by him, and of which he was, as it were, the soul. In 589, he assisted at the Third Council of Toledo of 72 bishops, or their deputies, in which were drawn up 23 canons relating to discipline, to repair the breaches the Arian heresy had made in fomenting disorders of several kinds. One of these was that the Arian clergy cohabited with their wives, but the council forbade such of them as were converted to do so, enjoining them a separation from the same chamber, and, if possible, from the same house. This council commanded also the rigorous execution of all penitential canons without any abatement. The pious Cardinal de Guerre has written a learned dissertation on this subject. Saint Leander, sensible of the importance of prayer, which is in a devout life what a spring is in a watch, or the main wheel in an engine, labored particularly to encourage true devotion in all persons, but particularly those of the monastic profession, of which state it is the very essence and constituent. His letter to his sister Florentina, a holy virgin, is called his Rule of a Monastic Life. It turns chiefly on the contempt of the world and on the exercises of prayer. This saint also reformed the Spanish liturgy. In this liturgy, and in the Third Council of Toledo, in conformity to the Eastern churches, the Nicene Creed was appointed to be read at Mass, to express a detestation of the Arian heresy. Other Western churches, with the Romans, soon imitated this devotion. Saint Leander was visited by frequent distempers, particularly the gout, which St. Gregory, who was often afflicted with the same, writing to him, calls a favor and mercy of heaven. This holy doctor of Spain died about the year 596, on the 27th of February, as Mabillon proves from his epitaph. The Church of Seville has been a metropolitan see ever since the 3rd century. The cathedral is the most magnificent, both as to structure and ornament, of any in all Spain. The contempt of the world which the gospel so strongly inculcates, and which St. Leander so eminently practiced and taught, is the foundation of a spiritual life, but is of far greater extent than most Christians conceive, for it requires no less than a total disengagement of the affections from earthly things. Those whom God raises to perfect virtue and closely unites to himself must cut off and put away everything that can be an obstacle to this perfect union. Their will must be thoroughly purified from all dross of inordinate affections before it can be perfectly absorbed in his. This they who are particularly devoted to the divine service are especially to take notice of. If this truth was imprinted in the manner that it ought, in the hearts of those who enroll themselves in the service of the Church or who live in cloisters, they would be replenished with heavenly blessings, and the Church would have the comfort of seeing apostles of nations revive among her clergy, and the monasteries again filled with Antonys, Bennets, and Bernards, whose sanctity, prayers, and example would even infuse into many others the true spirit of Christ amid the desolation and general blindness of this unhappy age.